السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وأزواجه أجمعين. أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. All the praises and thanks be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sustainer of the universe, and blessing and salutation to be the most distinguished of the messenger and foremost among the Prophet, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Peace and blessing of Allah be on him, on his wife, children and companions. Ameen. So today inshallah the topic would be choices for Muslims in the West. As we are living in the Western society, so what are our choices? What do we need to do? So my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, as we say, as I said, choices of the Muslims in the West. This is a concerning topic, relevant to us based on the prevailing circumstances around us. So this topic especially becomes more important given the delicate and dangerous situation that Muslim finds ourselves nowadays. So our modern world brought together people of diverse cultures into a global village. So we call this is a global village. And we Muslims in the West have to make some crucial choices about our relationships with the neighbors in the wider community. So as we said, in the United States, more or less, rough estimate is about 7 million Muslims are there in the United States, which is less than even 3%, 2 point some percent it turns out to be. We are small in community, in terms of numbers. However, we are not the first Muslims to face the challenge of living in a minority in a Western secular environment. We are the first one. In the 17th century, if you look at the history, in the 17th century, in Southeast Asia, the Dutch colonizer of Java and Sumatra sent their political exiles to the Cape of Good Hope. These exiles established the first Muslims' presence in southern Africa. This community, which number about 3% of the total, is now just over 300 years old. Subhanallah. It is probably the oldest and the most experienced Muslims minority in the Western world. And let us not forget about that. That Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the leader of first Muslim minority. He was the first leader of Muslim minority in a very hostile tribal society. So the Quraysh of Makkah were bitterly opposed to Islam, as we know the history. They persecuted Muslims quite severely, and there was a real danger that Islam could have been wiped out completely. So as a precaution, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, he sent a small delegation to Abyssinia. So they become the first Muslim minority in a friendly Christian society. When that delegation was sent, so that was the first minority of Muslims living in the Christian society. It was here that a wise, just and tolerant king of that time, he welcomed them and he guaranteed their safety. Subhanallah. So that was the first example we can say when Rasulullah ﷺ sent a small delegation to live in a community which was non-Muslim, but it was acceptable. It was acceptable by that community or by the leader of that. Over the past half century, labor shortages, as we know, labor shortages or a lot of immigrants, they migrated because of shift from the other part of the world. As a Muslim, they start moving to the Western world. And they are from all backgrounds. We cannot pinpoint one over the other. They are from all backgrounds. They came into the Western world. And obviously, when they come with their own baggage as well. And obviously, if they are Muslim, they were Muslim, so they brought their own Islam into this perspective as well. So here comes the problem, which is not a problem, but the other society which did not understand. I'm not talking about all. I'm talking about the few in numbers. They don't know the ethics of the others. And same goes with the people who immigrated from the other part of the world. They don't know the new society. They don't know the norms of the new society. So there is a middle ground somewhere. That's where we need to adjust on. So as I said, the topic is, what are our choices living in the Western world? So we have, as a Muslim living in the Western countries or Western world, we have three options. One is assimilation. Another one is isolation. The third choice is selective interaction. So there is no fourth choice. Either you can assimilate in the society. Second thing is you can be isolated. Okay, I'm going to do my way and I want to protect myself. And the third one is selective interaction. So let's talk about one by one a little bit to have a better understanding. So the first category, if we say the assimilation is the first category. So what happened in assimilation? Those are the ones who choose to assimilate usually suffer from a massive inferiority complex. And that's a global fact. If you live in, let's say we live in American society. We are American, right? So if you go from America to some other European country and you want to live your way, American way, then you'll stand out, and obviously you have, again, three choices. Either one of those. Doesn't matter if you're Muslim or non-Muslim. So you need to adjust in between. You don't want to be outclassed. You don't want to be too much mingled that you forget where you came from. Let's not forget your roots. So I give the example. If it's an orange tree, comes from the roots of the orange, it's going to stay orange. You cannot say, I'm an orange tree, my roots are orange, now I start giving apple. You'll still be, there will be mixture. You see the fruits mixtures, and it's a hibernation of all those. That's a different topic. But you are still what? This is the hibernation of apple and orange, which brings a new fruit, which could be orange and apple. You can say that, but you cannot say, I don't have those roots anyway. But anyway, so the one who try to assimilate too much into any society, they abandon their own identity, they imitate the culture of the host community in every possible way. They feel ashamed of who they are and where they came from. They deny their origins and they try to be little, whatever you can call themselves, on skin colors. Right? The second choice is isolation. The second group who has chosen isolation are horrified with what they see has become of their first group. They do not want to disappear in cultural melting pot. So that's their fear. So they want to be isolated, they want to be in the melting pot of the culture. They want to preserve their Islamic identity. Since we are talking about Islam, so we're going to focus on Islam, we are not generalizing, but I'm giving you free parables, it's going to relate both ways, right? So they do not want to disappear in the cultural melting pot. They want to preserve their Islamic identity, which they often confuse with their culture and ethnic identity. Further, they think the best way to protect Islam and their Muslim identity is to have no contact or minimal contact with their non-Muslim neighbors. The fear of their isolations is understandable. We understand their fear, why they fear. But it cannot be a solution. Islam cannot be hidden away like some precious relic in a museum. It was never intended to be a religion of the ghetto. And Islam is not the religion only for the ethnic minorities. It is a religion for all mankind, for all times and all places. So if you remember that, so you cannot do the isolation. We're going to go a little deeper in that. So let's talk about the third choices, the one selective interaction. The third group has chosen the middle way of selective interaction. They believe that Muslim can and should freely associate with people of other faiths or of no faiths, as the case may be. They feel at ease with their neighbors at home, at work, and leisure, so that they can cultivate a friendship that benefits both sides. This group seeks to adapt the Western society by absorbing the good influences. This is the catchword. By absorbing the good influences and avoiding the bad influences. That's most crucial. That is very important. I would say this is the punchline for everything. Absorb the good influences and avoid the bad influences. Also, this group feels that their interaction allows Muslims to generate an Islamic influence on our neighbors and fellow citizens. So what is the correct choice for us? As I said, we have three choices. So what are the best choice for us? What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Anbiya? The Holy Quran described the mission of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What was that? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you, O Muhammad, but as a mercy unto all nations. So if this Islam is for all nations, so we are not in minority anywhere. Subhanallah. We are not in minority anywhere. We should not have any inferiority complex anywhere. We should have interactions with our neighbors, with the citizens, wherever you go, whatever society you live in. So the best choice is not in isolation. The best choice is not in assimilation. So you go as a melting pot and you be melted and like you don't know what you are. You're so ashamed. No, we should not be ashamed of. You should not be ashamed of anything. You should be rather proud of that. During the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if it was the example, take the example, the perfect example Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is saying, among you is what? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he behaved, what he did, how he brought this ta'aleem, how he brought this knowledge to you. This is the best of the example among you. He says what he did, if it was up to the isolation. Think for the perspective. If it was up to the isolation, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or all the previous Anbiya, they would have been alone, came alone, went alone. That was not the intention. The intention was mingle with each other. Have good influence. And how you can do the influence, we'll talk about it. So have the good influence, but let's not adapt the bad of the society. When you try to adapt the bad of the society, you are the melting pot of that society then. If you interact in a nice way, you can get up and you can talk with the confidence and all those. But again, what is the most important thing here? What is the most important thing here? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam want all of us to gain the knowledge. To gain the knowledge. So why we do these three behaviors we talked about? Assimilation, a little bit of interaction, or selective interaction, or isolation we talked about. So there's a reason for that. So the reason is, first of all, when you feel like you're inferior among others in a society, you step in. And you think, well, if I call myself a Muslim, so people will label me whatever is going on in the world. Brothers, sisters, if you didn't do anything, you didn't do anything. You have not to pretend anything. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. However, we can correct it. How can we correct it? We can educate people. And before we educate, before you go and educate someone, before that you need to learn yourself. We need to learn ourselves. We cannot just walk into anything. Let's say you want to teach someone mathematics. I'm just giving an idea. Mathematics, and you want to teach the adults. And they are the learned people in the classroom. You cannot just walk in without knowing what you are going to teach them. You need to have your groundwork. And the groundwork is have firm, at least understanding of what you're going to teach them. Same concept. About Islam, the most important, crucial thing is you cannot instill in anyone's heart, this is what Islam is, this is what we are, how we are better. This is your adab. This is your knowledge. The more knowledge you gain, the more humble you become. The more humble you become, the more people will be observant of you, and they'll say, okay, I see there is characteristics in this brother or sister. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't have to teach anyone. This is the first. People are more observant than, they want to learn from you. First, if you go strike any conversation with someone, they want to see how comfortable I am with this opponent to me, who's standing there. That's the most important thing they do. They think, he or she is friendly. Should I be open? Should I be open to talk to this or not? And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Nahl, "Udu ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal mu'izati hasana." This is very important. And invite to the path of your Lord using wisdom and beautiful preaching. So we can read books. We can read books and observe preachers. And we can learn how to master beautiful preaching. But how and where do we find wisdom? That's the most important thing. Where do we find the wisdom? So the Dictionary of English Language defines wisdom as accumulated philosophic or scientific learning, the thoughtful application of learning, good sense, good judgment. That kind of summarize what the wisdom should be. So it seems like the wisdom is not something you can develop quickly or easily. True wisdom is a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is the culmination of long process of seeking knowledge. So if you are, let's say, I'll give you the example, if you are a mathematics professor, you walk in, you don't know what, or you call yourself a mathematics professor, and you walk into the room where there are intellects and there are a lot of people who are ready to learn from you, and you don't know what you're teaching, and then you'll be humiliated yourself. You'll be humiliating yourself. So seek that knowledge. Here in Islam, seek the knowledge before you talk to someone. Because misquoting is a very dangerous thing. We need to be very careful from misquoting anything. If you don't have knowledge, you don't have knowledge. It's easy to say, I don't know, sorry, brother, sister, I don't know, but I'll get back to you and I'll find an answer for you. Rather giving the wrong answer. That's where we go wrong. When we say we know everything, whenever we say we become arrogant, we say we know everything. No one knows everything. No one knows everything. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the wisdom comes with the knowledge. And it's a blessing of Allah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on each individual. You seek for the knowledge, Allah opens your mind, your heart. The more you try to learn, the more Allah opens your heart, and it's like a sponge. You keep digesting on and on and on. And we cannot force anyone to convert or revert to Islam. Plain and simple. This is one thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept to himself. He says, your job is to convey the message. Even to Anbiya, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his job was to convey the message. He conveyed the message. If it was up to him, he would have converted all of his family. He would have wished first all of his own close relatives to be Muslim before inviting all of us, forefathers, whatever we say. That was not the intention. The intention was to invite each and every one of those. So once a Jew was having a disagreement with one of the Sahaba. Once a Jew has a disagreement with one of the Sahaba, he said, our prophet Musa was a greater prophet than your Muhammad. So obviously, Sahaba Karam, what would their response? As you could have guessed, the Sahabi said, no, Muhammad is the greatest among all prophets. So they kept on arguing, and then he said, okay, let's go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ask him about this question. So they went and asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahabi said, look at this Rasulullah. He's saying his Nabi Musa alayhi salam rather. Musa alayhi salam is the greatest Nabi among all of the Anbiya. Rasulullah said, yes, and Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam as well. And the Jew was so delighted. He went away. He was delighted, he went away. So Ashabi was puzzled. What kind of answer Rasulullah gave? So when he went away, he says, Ya Rasulullah, you give this answer. He says, listen, he is calling Musa Nabi as the greatest of the prophet. What's wrong in that? If he's believing that, that's what you need to do. At least he believes in Musa alayhi salam. So you should let him be delighted on that one. So these are the talimat. So when we try to debate more, what happens is you try to bring logic. You try to bring your logics, it becomes heated debate, heated to the extreme, and you go up to extreme. Don't go there. Don't go there. Show your best possible example in the light of Islam, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught you. Just stay on that one, try to gain more and more knowledge. And like I said, wisdom comes with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not something you acquire right away. You pick it up off the shelf and says, no, I've become a wise guy now. No, you're not. Yes, if you have a knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens your heart, open your minds, you gain it. It's going to eventually come. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a very vast topic, but I want to touch base a little bit. I thought this is the essence of the time. We need to talk these kind of topics. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless each and all of us to gain the wisdom as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let us pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to awaken within us the desire to improve ourselves and to serve Islam better. The desire to move forward and become Muslims that are more effective. Oh Allah, help us in our effort to seek knowledge, understanding, and wisdom so that we can serve you and seek your pleasure. Or help us, O Allah, to live as true and worthy example for those who are not yet Muslim. Let the light of Islam shine through us, through our behavior, as a beacon for those who are still lost in darkness. O Allah, let us, our children, and all future generation of Muslims increase in numbers and quality. And despite the terrible events of these past few years that have damaged the good name of Islam, let Islam grow and prosper. Help us do our duty so that Islam can make its greatest conquest not by physical force, but winning the hearts and minds of all who love truth, beauty, and justice. Ameen. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفر إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله علي ذات عظيم الصفات السميع سمات كبير الشان جليل القدر رفيع الذكر المطاع الأمير جليل البرهان فخميم الاسم عزيز العلم وسيل الحلم كثير الغفران جميل الثناء جزيل العطاء مجيب الدعاء أميم الإحسان سر الحساب شديد العقاب عليم العذاب عزيز السلطان ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له في الخلق والأمر ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله المبعوث إلى الأسود والأحمر المنؤوط بشرح الصدر ورفع الذكر وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحابه الذين هم خلاصة الأرب الأرباء خير الخلائق بعد الأنبياء أما بعد فيا أيها الناس وحدوا الله فإن توحيد رأس الطاعات واتقوا الله فإن التقوى ملق الحسنات وعليكم بالسنة فإن السنة تهدي إلى الإطاعة ومن أطاع الله ورسوله فقد رشد واهتدى وإياكم والبدعة فإن البدعة تهدي إلى المعصية ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل وغوى وعليكم بالصدق فإن الصدق ينجي والكذب يهلك وعليكم بالإحسان فإن الله يحب المحسنين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقال ربكم ادعوني يستجب لكم إن الذين يستكبرون عن عبادتي سيدخلون جهنم داخرين بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات وذكر الحكيم أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفر إنه هو الغفور الرحيم الحمد لله استعينوا واستغفروا ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم اغفر لي وللمؤمنين وللمؤمنات يوم يقوم الحساب قال إن الصلاة ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي الله رب العالمين الله في أصحابي لا تتخذهم غرضا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فبغضي أبغضهم وخير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم وسلطان ذل الله في الأرض من أحان سلطان الله في الأرض أحانه الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروني يذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. أقيموا الصلاة.